Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and today is episode 113 of Podcast 2 for 1, and we are talking the highly anticipated, critically acclaimed, Academy Award-winning Morbius by Sony Pictures. Yep. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. That way you're up to date on all future episodes of Podcast 2 for 1, as well as all the cool content we have at 2 for 1 Studios, youtube.com/2 for 1 Studios, the best place to consume the content. And if you didn't know, and you probably didn't, we are sponsored by Kapow Comics, located at 4047 East Kill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. There they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year. Kapow. Yeah, so this is going to be a baby cast. We haven't done a baby cast in a long time. It's basically a podcast from Podcast 2 for 1, but it's in the size of a baby, Daniel. You can just, you can hold it, you can put little baby pants on it, you can push it around. It can't walk yet. It's still figuring things out. It's a baby cast, right? And, which means a little shorter, partly because not fully developed. Yeah, it's still learning, infant stages. And I watched Morbius. I did it for both of us. You didn't have to watch it.
Indeed.
I did. Yeah. So
to be fair, I'm not against watching it. I am against paying money to watch it.
Right.
At least at this, it's just kind of a moral decision that I have to just be true to my ideals. So
I understand. And don't worry, I've already pre-ordered the Steelbook, even though I don't like the movie very much. So I was pre-ordering the Batman Steelbook, and it was on Best Buy. And all of a sudden, the Morbius Steelbook is there, and I was like, what the fuck? This thing just came out like a week ago. And I was like, oh, I guess, whatever. So I clicked it, and now I have it. I mean, I have Venom 1 and 2, so I've got to catch them all, right? So,
someday you may need some doorstops when you don't have any. And those would be great options.
That's true. Or Targets for target practice, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I run out of diapers. I run out of toilet paper.
If we go into like a global winter, like another ice age.
Ooh, I could melt down the Steelbooks and make like my own bullets in case like another World War or something.
Perfect. This is the long-term plan. It's like that. It's like when in The Patriot, when Mel Gibson's melting down the kids' toys to turn them into musket bullets. Yeah.
That's I'll melt it down, make an armor, and I'll call myself Steelbook. Guys, first of all, this is more interesting than the actual movie. What we're talking about right now. So it's more fun too.
I believe you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll say this real quick. What the meat of this episode will not be talking about Morbius so much as to what they do at the end and kind of the implications for the MCU as a whole. And I'm going to spoil some things for people. I'm going to spoil things for you, Daniel, which I think you're fine with on this one.
Please do.
So, yeah, the movie it's very interesting. You can tell that it was really kind of cut the ass out of it in the editing room. They did some reshoots apparently. Partly, a lot of this is because the movie was shot before Spider-Man No Way Home was ever shot or really fully conceived of, because they didn't really have Toby or Andrew locked down until weeks or a month before shooting their scenes. Like that thing was always kind of evolving, and how the multiverse played out and all these other things. And so they didn't really have all this stuff nailed down. And so Sony is in some ways, got to conform a little bit to what Marvel Studios is doing, because they want to ride that Marvel Studios train as long as they can, or at least it feels like they want to. Where they said they don't. It's totally a lie. They kind of need Marvel Studios.
The fact that every trailer for their movies opens with "from the studio that brought you Spider-Man No Way Home," and by that means you gave permission for someone else to make it. Sure. But you know what I mean? The fact that they're being like, we made that, we produced that, and it's like, but you didn't though. But you did.
We've talked a little bit this on 2 for 1 Joe, but some of the comments from the director, some of them have been like, well, actually Sony invented the concept of the multiverse. Like they did Spider-Verse first, and like that really opened up the doors for the MCU, and then the MCU, it's like, Jesus, shut the fuck up. Like that's not.
But the Spider-Verse is like its own, that is not connected to like any of the other Sony movies. It's like its own little thing.
True.
It's like,
Well, it's just a dumb statement. It's like, well, no, I mean, like the idea of the multiverse invented the idea of the multiverse. You could do anything at that point. Like,
Yeah,
it's just stupid. Exactly. Yeah. Or we invented the idea of parallel universes, before it's just stupid. It's just stupid shit like that. But the movie, Jared Leto does all right. He does pretty well in the role. Matt Smith is the antagonist. Basically, the rundown, they both have blood disorders. And so they're both rich. Michael Morbius, he's a famous doctor now, and he's dying. He finds out a way to extract some DNA from bats that kind of help him. It's not supernatural at all, even though the trailers kind of paint that it could be supernatural. It's all scientific.
Which, from what I remember, was how it was.
Yeah, it was
at least
in the comics.
Cartoons in the comics. Yeah.
Yeah, I think his powers are pretty cool. The way they kind of showcase the sonar. You kind of see a little bit like the purple-ish mist in the movie. I don't think that's something that's actually happening. I think it's something that it's kind of like a visual representation of like what he is seeing, which I liked. It's shot okay for the most part. It's just really the editing, and it's very serious. There's not many jokes in it, and there's just some weird things.
Besides that one Venom joke that was in the trailers, I'm assuming.
It's not in the movie.
Oh, good, because it was bad.
Yeah, he doesn't do that in the movie. Yeah,
I'm glad.
That's why it's weird. So, like in the trailer example, we saw him walk by an image of actually Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man from the PS4/PS5 game. It was an image from that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's not in the movie at all. There's no reference. Well, there is a reference to Spider-Man in the very end, but throughout the movie, there's no reference to Spider-Man. Tyrese Gibson, in the comics, he's a character who has like a robotic arm. They completely like remove all his scenes, and you only see that he has a robotic arm in his last shot of the movie. He's just a regular beat cop. And it's just like there's some wild choices here, and they also took away. Do you remember in the trailer? Here's the big thing now. Remember in the trailer where Vulture's like, "Hey Doc, we should keep in touch." It's the Vulture, right? That's not in the movie at all now. So,
well, that looked like it was going to be the original end credit scene.
Exactly.
If I had to guess.
Exactly. Yeah. So here's what happens now. After Morbius defeats the bad guy, which is actually Matt Smith's character, who also gets vampire powers, which is actually, they don't never show that in the trailers. They never show any of that kind of stuff, which I thought was kind of cool. It's Monster v. Monster in the movie, and there's some decent sequences. Some of the CGI is not completely 100% amazing, but it's also a smaller budgeted movie. I think it's like $70-80 million budget, so it's not like a huge budgeted movie here. And at the end of the movie, after Michael Morbius defeats the bad guy, of course, you see the rift from Spider-Man No Way Home open up. It's still the same purple rift in time, the glass kind of look to it. It opens up and then it closes. And then you see Michael Morbius in his jail cell, and he appears, right? And he looks inside his jail cell in the mirror, and he's like, this is weird. Like, he like says something like, this is interesting, or this is weird, or something. And it cuts to a news like station or outlet, and they're like, there's been this what's his name? Adrian Toomes. Toomes, a man who has no record of his existence, has been found in a jail cell, and he's being let out or whatever. It's like, this is like national news. This random guy in a jail cell. Also, it feels like an abandoned jail cell, so it's like who knew that he was in there? I don't know.
So they basically swapped universes? Is that the idea?
Yeah, Morbius doesn't, but Vulture it gets pulled into this universe. And it shows him getting in the car, and like the same kind of similar scene that we got in the trailer, but Morbius is not there. There's no mention of that, nothing like that. He just gets in it, whatever. And like of course he's released. Like, he's released from prison because we don't know why he's in there anyway. We don't know who this guy is, right? That's the first after credits sequence. The second one, it's Michael Morbius on a motorcycle, and he's driving out to this desolate, far out, abandoned construction place. He gets out, he pulls off, and all of a sudden you see lights blare up, and it's the Vulture in his Vulture suit coming in, and he lands. And clearly this was ADR. Like, Michael Keaton was never there for this day. And we do know, like, back in September, October, that Michael Keaton was doing reshoots, which I think now was ADR, for this movie. And so it's probably probably the scene here. And he says, I don't really know what happened, but I'm not from this world. I think it has to do with Spider-Man. Like, how do you know it has anything to do with Spider-Man? But he's like,
Yeah.
I think it has to do with Spider-Man. Besides, he goes, anyway, I think we could do some good together. What do you say we team up? And then Michael Morbius was like, I'm listening, or that sounds interesting, or something. And that's it.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, it feels like we're building a Sinister Six
Right.
in this Sony universe.
Your own version of it. Yeah.
But is it like, I mean, there was ideas of a Sinister Six movie, I think written by Drew Goddard during the Amazing Spider-Man era, Andrew Garfield movies, where it was going to be like almost like anti-heroes. They were going to be a anti-hero team, right? And they were
like
going to...
Suicide Squad.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
Spider-Man was going to still be in it, but don't know if he was an antagonist or not. But essentially, it was whoever at the time was in. They're actually teased at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2 in the after credits. Like all the Sinister Six are there, like in some hologram.
Oh yeah.
In the credits. So it's like, okay, so I guess we have Venom, Morbius, and the Vulture. Venom's like an anti-hero, right? Morbius is also kind of like an anti-hero now, but Vulture's not really a good guy. He's just a guy that's a thief, and he doesn't want to get back to his family. He's a different universe.
Right. Yeah.
And how did he make his suit? Because like he was using Stark technology to power it.
Right.
And then also
Yes.
who is the Spider-Man? Yeah, how to get all the parts first of all, and who is the Spider-Man of this universe? It's not Tom Holland Spider-Man. Like we can confirm that.
I would assume it's Andrew Garfield. I think if Sony can make it happen, it seems like they are driving towards we're going to do our own Sinister Six with just Andrew.
Do you think so?
And I think so. I mean, I think he's I think he's one of the like. I know there's talks about Raimi and Spider-Man 4 with Toby, but I do feel like Andrew Garfield's stock rose the most out of No Way Home in terms of coming in with people having maybe a certain feeling about his Spider-Man,
Yeah.
and then coming out and people feeling differently or better about him. And so I do think Sony would love to jump in on that and just, cash in on that, really. And I mean, it definitely feels like with, even with Kraven the Hunter movie coming out, like it feels like they are building their own, stable of villains that could be a Sinister Six, but won't be the same one we got in No Way Home, which it was 5, but either way.
Missed opportunity. Again, still. I'm
Right,
still going to call it out every time.
Sure. Which I think, I do think a Sinister Six without Doc Ock does feel, because I also remember him being the leader of it a lot too.
He was. He
was
created
like
it.
the smart guy. He was the smart one.
100%. What's the thing too? It's like, okay, so this Sinister, like we got kind of close in No Way Home, right? We weren't 100% there, but we got close. In terms
We're
of
basically
like,
missing Rhino, right?
well, Mysterio was part of it. I think it was
Okay,
Mysterio, Sandman, Doc Ock.
Mysterio at least had like involvement in the story, though. I guess
He did, right.
Like
Green-
he was the
yeah.
catalyst, I guess, for everything that happened in a way.
The big one that wasn't there, or that normally wasn't there, would be the Green Goblin. He has been part of the Sinister Six later, but not in the original incarnation in Electro. So it really was just if you had Mysterio in there, and you had I think that's it. Then you would have had the
Vulture. Is Vulture Sinister Six?
and Vulture. Yes, that would have been the Sinister Six. So the only one that's kind of consistent here in the Sonyverse is the Vulture. We have Morbius, we have Venom, we're getting Kraven the Hunter, which is interesting because Aaron Taylor Johnson doesn't seem like the guy. Granted, he did have his MCU part, but something about the project attracted to him. I mean, even Jared Leto, he's an Academy Award winning actor. He's a good actor. Something attracted him to Morbius, I guess, with the promise to fight Spider-Man someday. I mean, Tom Hardy's a good actor.
It is,
Venom.
and I do think Morbius, the character, does fit Jared Leto as an actor in terms of what Jared Leto's skills are. Playing this like cryptic vampire dude, that's kind of like right up Jared Leto's alley in terms of like the kind of characters he often portrays. I think, especially recently.
I think you're right.
And also just being kind of this weird, socially strange person. You know, I just think it just fits with what he likes to do, I think. And so I'm sure the paycheck was good, and I'm sure he was promised, hey, like we want you to be. And I'm sure the fact that he's not a total, he's an anti-hero, he's not a villain. I bet that appealed to him because he does play a lot of serial killer like bad guys too. and
a lot of damaged
or,
characters.
the Joker. And so, like, I'm
Yeah,
sure he
forgot.
likes
Goddamn.
the opportunity to step outside of some of that typecasting at least a little bit.
But here's kind of my big question, though, is you say that Andrew Garfield feels like the lock for you, right?
I
Like,
think he's
Andrew
the
Garfield...
most likely in my head, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think Andrew, based on interviews, I think he enjoyed making the first one. I don't think he thinks too fondly of the second one, which was studio meddling, a lot of cooks in the kitchen kind of thing. None of these three movies yet have been critically acclaimed. I mean, Let There Be Carnage was surprisingly the most acclaimed because everyone was like, well, they're just doubling down and they're doing what people liked about the first one, right? So they're acknowledging that it's batshit crazy and stupid and insane, but like, hey, that's what they were actually going for, so they accomplished what they were going for.
Right.
Do you think Andrew would want to go play in this sandbox? I mean, it don't seem very appealing to me.
Well, I think they're going to have to convince him. And I think that's the reason we don't have any kind of like rumors circulating right now about him being in talks with it. I mean, I think you're right. I think Andrew Garfield seems like he's successful enough. He's not desperate, for roles. He can do what he wants. He just had an Academy Award nomination for his Netflix film, and is a great actor that has a pretty wide range too. And so I feel like, they are going to have to convince him, I think, and they're going to have to convince him with a good script and probably a good director and like promises of like certain levels of studio involvement or lack of involvement, maybe. I think it's possible though. And I guess I think for me, I think that's who Sony would want the most is Andrew Garfield, just because he's more recent. And, in some ways, I do think he embodies a little bit more of that quippy, jokey, Peter Parker Spider-Man that I think most people just kind of associate innately with the character. We did get some of that from Tobey, but Tobey was a bit more of a serious Peter Parker and a bit more serious Spider-Man. And
he had
a bit
heavier
more
shit to deal with, typically.
Yeah, he did. And, he had more existential crises and losing his powers and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think they want I think they want Andrew. I don't know if they can get him. And I think if they don't, they'll probably just pivot to some weird Sinister Six anti-heroes that end up saving the world Suicide Squad style, but probably worse.
Over under Spider-Man 4, Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire.
I'm under at the moment.
I don't know. Sam Raimi came out last week and was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. And
I think it's possible. I just think where we are right now, I would say it's less likely than it is likely. But I think that for me, that's like right under. It's like 1% below 50 in terms of like how likely. You know what I mean? Like 49% likely that it won't happen.
Okay, what about Amazing Spider-Man 3 with Andrew Garfield? I feel like that one's even... I don't know.
I'm more over on that one too. And I think also the thing too is that I think Andrew Garfield has more to prove as far as like his rendition of Peter. Like No Way Home proved that he can do a good Peter, and like when given good dialogue and a good script, he can really knock it out of the park. But we haven't necessarily seen him do that for the whole movie on his own. You know what I mean? And so I do think, Spider-Man 3 is a mess, but Spider-Man 1 and 2 are really, really good. I would say especially 2 is just amazing. And Tobey carries those movies with amazing performances. Mm-hmm. And so I think we can all look at Tobey and be like, he was an amazing Spider-Man that had a really bad third movie. With Andrew, it's more like he was good with what he had to work with, but he was really held back by some things. And so I almost feel like, even if I'm thinking about Andrew Garfield's point of view, like he has a bit more to prove in terms of like, can you be Spider-Man Peter Parker for a whole movie and really carry it? If you don't have a script that's have garbage dialogue and just weird plots stuff, what can you do with it?
I still personally think he did really, like, as Peter Parker Spider-Man, did really well in Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think the movie around him is what failed him.
Of those movies is lower because of everything else. So
I agree.
Out looking worse than he performed.
Agreed. I mean, that, again, I can't say enough. That last scene in Amazing 2, is still my favorite Spider-Man live action scenes of all time. I think it's just such a good encapsulates the character in its entirety. Okay, I mean, here's what I want, and we'll get off here. It's a baby cast. I mean, personally, I want Spider-Man 4, 5, and 6 with Tobey, but I would love maybe almost like a Logan kind of thing with Spider-Man. Not saying like he's going to die at the end of it, but like maybe Sam comes back for one more to tell a good story with Tobey Maguire.
Right.
And maybe the same thing with Amazing Spider-Man 3. But I still want, when Secret Wars happens, I want them to put maybe even Tom Holland or Toby or Andrew, all these guys. I want them to be like, we talked about this before, but there's Team Iron Man, there's Team Thor, and there's Team Cap in Infinity War. I want Team Spider-Man. And I want them, maybe every team gets a Spider-Man and they're split up. But I want that team working together one last time in Secret Wars. And I want that to be the end of everything. Like, I want Secret Wars to be the end. And I want there to be a reboot afterwards.
Like, before a reboot?
As we know it, yes. Like a reboot with new everything. They can start over with X-Men. They can do
take years off maybe before.
Do what?
I think they should take some time off before they reboot it. They should give the audience some space to let everything else become nostalgic before they start doing it again.
I would love it. I just don't think shareholders and the business part of it will ever allow that to happen.
I mean, I feel like if you're Disney and like if you're not Bob Iger, whoever the CEO is, you can just be like, listen, we have Star Wars going on right now. We're going to take a break from this, and we're still going to make plenty of money, guys. I just feel like, I mean, I guess they are publicly traded, and so, like, there's this element of, like,
it's a baller move.
Shareholders have some sort of say in like, business decisions, but I just do feel like Disney is the company that's big enough that if they said, okay, MCU, we're going to take a 10-year break, nothing really changes for them in terms of profit. You know what I mean? It's not like they aren't going to still stream those movies and sell those movies and sell merchandise from those movies and then sell, the 20 movie steel book special edition, $400, collection edition of all these movies. It's not like that revenue just goes away. It just means we're going to give some time off for the audiences to like kind of cleanse their palate a little bit before we just start trying to reboot everything.
I don't totally agree. I mean, there's a reason why there's like a 2 to 3 year window to release a sequel, because people kind of start forgetting about certain things and start losing interest.
Well, if you're rebooting everything, you don't really care though.
I'm with you. I'm talking about from the Bob Chapek, which is the CEO, shareholders, these people who are actually running Disney and who are getting profit or money from it. I feel like those people are the ones who will be like, no, we got to keep it going, the money train, because these movies and these shows are. We're making a podcast about it. We're doing free marketing for them right now, and I feel like there's always gonna be that battle there. Hey, again, I would love it. Please take like a 5-year break. Like, I think that's plenty of time. 5 years.
Yeah.
It won't be more.
Right.
It won't be more than 5. But I mean, even a 3-year break, like there's just nothing out for 3 years, and we're starting over again with like I don't know, Iron Man or Captain America or something.
I think they got to start. I think they'd start over with a different character, maybe. But yeah,
I think so too. Probably like, I don't know. So that's the thing. The only danger to this too is that if they're building up to this big event, a lot of these characters are going to be introduced pretty close to that event for the first time, like Fantastic Four. Or Miss Marvel, or I assume we're at least 5 years out from the next big crossover. Maybe 3 years out.
The event, like an Avengers movie, basically.
Yeah, I don't think Secret Wars will be the next big thing. I think it'll be some Avengers level threat, of course. Agreed. Maybe like Galactus or something.
I think Doctor Doom could be the next big thing.
Please give it to me.
But
or Magneto or something.
He would almost be like Loki with Avengers 1 being like the envoy. I think we would get Doctor Doom like his introduction as a crossover movie, but then he would come back as like later as well. Yeah. As an, like, still sad in some way.
And we still have Kang to deal with. Like I don't feel like Kang is going to lose in Ant-Man Quantumania. I feel like
maybe
the threat seems too. That's what I'm saying. The threat seems too large to.
Oh yeah,
to have Kang.
He's the next like Thanos level threat, right? Like they've
implied it, or like he's worse than in the show, whatever. But I feel like we've got a lot of things to deal with before we get to Secret Wars, and maybe Kang is Secret Wars. We don't know. It's a lot of speculation. But anyway, Sony done fucked up again with another MC or another Marvel property. I feel bad for him because like he's like Jared Leto's a talented actor and they got talented people work on these things. I know no one goes out to make a bad movie, but for some reason they just can't nail it, which is wild because they made Spider-Man 1 and 2. I mean, they made Spider-Verse. They made these movies.
Yeah, but I mean, we say they, but I would assume that we're not talking about the same executives in charge in 2002 that are in charge now.
We really are, though. Avery Arad and Amy Pascal have been there since the beginning. And so...
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like they just have changed their gears in terms of what they want. It seems like they're just mostly interested in profitable movies more than they are critically acclaimed movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so maybe they should team up with DC because Sony and DC would go great together because they both want the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. DC at least makes better movies than Sony. They do. I mean, Shazam is better than every.
Yes.
All three of those movies combined.
Yeah.
But anyway, Daniel, how can listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly/241mail. Let us know what you thought of the Morbius movie. Let us know where you think Sony will be taking their Spider-Verse characters next. And let us know what you think, if they'll go with Toby or if Andrew, who will get the first kind of revival movie in terms of their Spider-Man. I think that is definitely I go back and forth on it. Some days I feel one way, some days I feel the other. But write in bit.ly/241mail, and we'll read it on the show.
I had one more question pop up. Do you think Toby will be in Multiverse of Madness?
No, I don't.
It'd be very close to No Way Home. I mean, it is Sam Raimi, but it's very close.
It is. I just don't think so. I think we just had him, and I personally would rather a different surprise. If we're gonna get a surprise, we just had that surprise.
They say that there's more
surprising
surprises in this than there was in Endgame. That's what
I know.
Which I'm like,
which to their credit have seemingly been kept under better wraps than Spider-Man.
I mean, they've showed absolutely. They've showed next to nothing for Doctor Strange. Like they've showed that one trailer and a few smaller 20, 30-second trailers, and we're 2 weeks out. So they've really kept this one close to their vest.
Even if we made a list of the things we are suspecting, like getting Zombie Wanda, getting Dark Strange. Well, Dark Strange seems to be all but confirmed just from the trailers. But getting these crossovers from What If, it seems like they've all but confirmed we're getting some sort of Patrick Stewart character, at least some sort of Professor X, some version of him, which I think obviously everyone then asked the question, well, could this be introducing the X-Men or lead to what introduces the X-Men directly? We know we're getting America Chavez, but, the fact that there's more surprises beyond that from what already feels like a packed cast of characters, it's very intriguing. I think I'm going into this one with fewer expectations of what I'll get. With Spider-Man movies, it was okay, well, I think we're getting these people back. At least I'm pretty sure I'm what I'm suspecting. With Multiverse of Madness, I'm just expecting to be surprised. I have a much less of an idea of what those surprises might be, I guess, and I like that. I think that I'd rather go into it with a bit more of a unknowns with it.
I agree. One thing, I didn't get tickets yet, and I've looked at the show times, and it looks dour. It looks like I really fucked up on this one, and it looks bad. And I don't think I'm not looking forward to it all. Is around 9:30 or 10 p.m. on Thursday night, and Travis Mosler texting us going, "Oh my God, you got!" And I'm like, I'm gonna be so mad that I haven't seen this movie yet. We'll figure it out.
We gotta find a way to get into an early staff screening of it or something.
Something's got to happen. We got to figure this out.
Hey, listeners, if you work at a movie theater and can get us into the staff screening of the films they sometimes do, it'd be cool if you let us in too.
I've seen a few MC movies through those kind of screenings. I saw Cap, Winter Soldier, Thor, The Dark World.
Oh, really? Did you have friends at the theater that worked there?
Yeah, I drove all the way to Fort Smith at 12 o'clock at night to watch these movies. And yeah, I've done quite a few of those, and I used to work in a movie theater also. But I saw First Class like that when I worked at the theater. But MCU wise, yeah, I saw Cap 2, Thor 2, And I think I saw one more. I can't remember what it was. I saw a few others that weren't NC either. Anyway, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button, the notification bell. Again, up to date on all future episodes of Podcast 2-for-1, as well as all the cool content, and it is pretty cool content at 2-for-1 Studios, youtube.com/2for1 Studios, the best place to consume the content. Thank you for indulging me for our Morbius review. And really, I always knew it'd kind of turn into a multiverse discussion, which is what I really wanted.
Right.
Yeah. And
No, I enjoyed it.
I'm glad we did it. My name is Donovan Thompson.
I am Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.